Hello, everyone, and welcome to Developod. It's the podcast from IATEFL TDSIG. That's the Teacher Development Special Interest Group. I'm Helen, and on today's episode, I'm going to be interviewing Matthew Ellman. Matt, how would you describe your ELT self to our learners?
Hi, Helen. Um, okay, you started with a tough one. I am a teacher trainer, and author, I guess.
Hmm,
Does that work?
sounds good. From teacher to trainer, right?
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. All
Published by
right.
Cambridge University Press, available in all good bookshops.
Sounds good. Well, and not just a book, your dissertation is out there as well. What did you write about?
Yeah, that was a while back. So that was also on teacher education.
Hmm.
And I was very fortunate. It won the British Council's MA Dissertation Award at the Eltons in 2018.
Hmm.
So that was a study I did on how or video supported feedback, video supported observation feedback
Hmm.
um, supports teacher reflection.
I just really love the title. You're more likely to pick up on stuff.
Yeah,
It just made me
that's something
smile.
that the teacher kind of reflected on at the end.
Oh, great.
So yeah, it's a nice quote to pull out.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, you do a lot of things. I mean, if someone was to go on your LinkedIn profile, we've got teacher development, mentoring, face-to-face and online teacher training, blended and online course design, and digital pedagogy for language teaching. I mean, is there anything that you don't do, Matt?
I I guess I'm really lucky. So I work for Cambridge University Press and Assessment, and I'm very
Mhm.
lucky to have a role that's quite wide ranging, and I have
Mhm.
quite a lot of freedom to do the things that interest me in that
Mhm.
role. So most of what I work on is related in some way to teacher development or teacher
Mhm.
training.
Yeah.
Um, I used to do lots and lots of teacher training as part of the role, lots of travel
Mhm.
um, before, like pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Um, most of my time was spent visiting schools
Mhm.
or speaking at conferences to teachers. So it was great. That it was great to go to so many countries,
Mhm.
so many institutions, talk to teachers working in so many different contexts. And it was great kind of training really for the book that I wrote with Peter, Luke, and Tony, from teacher to trainer, because it was all about understanding how teachers in different contexts learn,
Mhm.
and how context is such a vital factor in how you teach and how you learn to teach better.
Mhm.
Um, so that was good. And now, more recently, I do less of that kind of stuff, but
Mhm.
the focus of my role has shifted a little bit into supporting other trainers, other teacher
Mhm.
trainers, and to thinking more about teaching methodology.
All
So yeah, I'm
right.
very lucky.
All right. So, I mean, from teacher to trainer, where that came in your teacher development journey really reflected you at that time.
Yeah, I guess it did. And it was, I suppose, where I was at that time was
Hmm.
complementary to where Peter was at that time
Hmm.
in his journey as a teacher trainer. So the book came about because um, Peter had been delivering a course called I forget what it was called.
That's
He'd been
okay.
delivering a course like a trainer training course,
Hmm.
um, and he'd done it umpteen times.
Hmm.
So he could do it like in his sleep, more or
Yeah.
less. And he was asked to do the book basically as a kind of accompaniment to that course.
Hmm.
And I'd also delivered the course with him a couple of times, and I guess was bringing a fresh perspective to it because
Hmm.
it, I came from a different background to him. I was in the classroom more recently than he was.
Yeah.
So it turned out really well. The two perspectives that we brought to the book, I think,
Hmm.
worked really well.
Made it a more
And it
effective collaboration.
definitely, yeah, yeah. I suppose for me it was more um, that journey of going from teacher to trainer was fresher for me.
Hmm.
Um, and I suppose I'd also perhaps documented it a bit more. You know, like it
Hmm.
was the MA dissertation that you mentioned was part of that. Um, and and it just felt it felt a lot fresher. So I definitely had plenty of ideas to bring to the book.
Hmm.
And Peter obviously had bags of experience to bring to it. So
Yeah,
yeah, it was a fruitful collaboration, I think.
that's great. So, I mean, we've talked a bit about your role now, but if it's okay, I'd like to talk a bit more about, the story of you, like where you started. How did you end up where you are now? What was your first work in ELT like?
So I think like many people, I kind of um, came to ELT by accident, or at least
Mm-hmm.
partially by accident.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't start as a teacher. I didn't never intended to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I went to university, I studied music.
Mm-hmm.
So that was great, lots of fun.
Mm-hmm.
But when I finished, I kind of realized I did not have what it takes to be a professional musician, and I also didn't want to kind of struggle to pay the bills,
Mm-hmm.
which many musicians do. So I went into accounting. I kind
Mm-hmm.
of did a 360 or 180, whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
um, and became an accountant.
Mm-hmm.
I did that for a couple of years um, in the UK and in Norway. So I kind of had the travel bug already
Yeah.
um, from that. And I basically had a plan to move countries again, and I thought I'd add another string to my bow. So
Mm-hmm.
I booked myself onto a CELTA course, and I remember pretty clearly actually, like my first TP, the first lesson I taught.
Yeah.
I remember thinking like, this is for me.
Yeah.
I am in my element now.
Something
Um,
clicked.
yeah, yeah, it really did.
Oh.
Um, which was great. So I thoroughly enjoyed the CELTA. I did it at IH London.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and shortly after that started teaching in London.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, and I never looked back really. I
Mm-hmm.
suppose I've been quite lucky, I think, in my career in several respects. So the first stroke of luck was being at IH London because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything about IH when I booked
Mm-hmm.
the CELTA. I was just looking for the cheapest course,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest. And all the cheapest courses were booked up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I ended up signing up to the CELTA at IH. But I'm so glad that happened because I still believe it's one of the best places you can do your CELTA.
Mm-hmm.
I had amazing trainers, which came in really handy, when it came to writing a book on teacher training later.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Such great resources, great colleagues on the course. And then the next stroke of luck, I think, was the school I went to afterwards, which was it's shut down now. It's quite a small
Mm-hmm.
private language school in London,
Mm-hmm.
and I probably was a victim of the government's visa changes over the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But it was such a great staff room to work in
Yeah.
because there were lots of teachers. It was a real mixture of teachers. Some were fairly inexperienced, like myself. Some had
Mm-hmm.
been teaching for years and years and years, and it
Mm-hmm.
was such a supportive place and such a creative place
Oh.
um, to be teaching from. So that was a huge stroke of luck because it I learned so much in that first year of teaching. Um, and from there, I moved to Spain, and I
Mm-hmm.
guess the third stroke of luck would be that I chose to go to Spain because I won a competition. I ran a I I just entered a random prize draw somewhere to get free Spanish lessons
Mm-hmm.
and um and got an email on what happened to be my birthday, and they said, you've won a free trip to Spain. Like, we will give you Spanish lessons for a week,
Mm-hmm.
like free accommodation with a Spanish family.
Huh.
All you have to do is like pay the flights.
Hmm.
So I was like, sure, okay. And I went and had my week of free Spanish classes.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I took a bus to Madrid and went around with my CV and got a job at IH Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my second experience of International House.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just like the first one, um, I got tons of tons of development in my time there because there
Hmm.
were workshops going on every week.
Yep.
Um, Again, like an amazing staff room, really supportive colleagues, so much
Hmm.
to learn from them. Um, so by the time I left there, I'd done Celta and Delta.
Hmm.
Um, I just learned a ton about teaching and kind of dipped my toes into teacher training as well when I was there.
Hmm.
So from there, I went to work for the British Council in Malaysia,
Hmm.
um, and I was there 4 years. By the time I left, I was the training manager um,
Hmm.
at the teaching centre there in Kuala Lumpur. And from there, I got my job at Cambridge, and I've been at Cambridge ever since.
All right. Huh. So, I mean, looking back, what year did you start in ELT then?
So 2010 was when I did my CELTA
2010. All right. Okay. Oh,
years ago.
so 15. 15?
Hmm.
Bit of mess, right? Yeah, okay. Wow. Yeah. So I mean, I say looking back. Our theme this year at TDSIG is looking back, looking forward, 40 years of teacher development, because TDSIG as a SIG has been around for 40 years. So, I mean, looking at the 15 years that you've been involved in ELT, I mean, how has it changed? And what changes have really involved or affected you? I mean, you've already mentioned COVID and how that necessitated a change in how you worked your role at Cambridge. Are there any other changes that you think have really affected or involved you?
That's interesting. I think one of the first thing that springs to mind, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's not a super positive change, I don't think,
Mm-hmm.
but there's there's definitely more. I think in the time that I've been teaching, there like social media kind of
Mm-hmm.
became a big thing around the time I started teaching,
Yeah.
and teacher development on social media became a huge thing. So like everybody had a blog.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like Twitter was really nice back then, not like now.
Yeah.
So I remember doing ELT chat on Twitter.
Yeah.
Shout out to everyone involved in that.
Oh,
And
I miss it.
yeah, and it was there were so many great resources and
Mm-hmm.
so much great reflective practice going on online
Mm-hmm.
at that
Yeah.
time. Um, which is fantastic, but I think it has led to a slowdown in teacher development publishing.
Mm.
Um, books and I don't know what you might call more formal
Mm-hmm.
teacher development resources, which is a shame, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one change. I guess, yeah, teaching online
Mm-hmm.
and teacher development online, teacher training online
Yeah.
is much more of a thing than it used to be.
Yeah.
I think that AI now is obviously
Mm-hmm.
like the new kid on the block. Um, and it's interesting to think about how that is changing things and will
Yeah.
change things in the future.
Yeah.
But I don't know, many things haven't changed.
Yeah.
I don't think that classroom practice has changed massively.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that textbooks have changed massively. I don't think that uh, working conditions for teachers have changed massively, or if they have, they've changed for the worse.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a mixed picture, I
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah. I mean, looking forward, where do you think your ELT journey is going? And I mean, what changes would you like to see in ELT? Sorry, that's kind of two questions, actually. I'm sorry.
So the at the moment at Cambridge now we're working on kind of revising the Cambridge English teaching framework, which has been around for about 10 years. And it's one of several frameworks. The British Council has one, Equals
Mhm.
have one.
Mhm.
And the purpose of the framework is to sort of set out what teachers at various stages of development should know or be able to do.
Mhm.
And for me, it's really interesting as we've been looking at this to think about how AI affects the different elements of the framework. We're looking right now at lesson
Mhm.
planning, and
Mhm.
it's impossible to to revise that part of the framework without considering the role of AI. But what I'd love to see, I think at the moment, what's happening, or at least this, what you see on LinkedIn
Hmm.
or other forums for teacher development, is people looking at how they can use AI to do things. What can AI do? Can it plan my lesson?
Hmm.
Can it adapt my activities? Things like that. And I'd love us to get to a step beyond that where we're aware not just of what AI can do, but of where we might want to use it and
Hmm.
where we might want to not use it. So we have a
Hmm.
really clear idea of
Yeah.
where those boundaries are.
Yeah.
Um, so I think where we are now is the necessary first step.
Hmm.
But but yeah, I think it's useful to consider what AI brings to us and what we bring to the whole
Hmm.
experience of teaching and learning, and where we should kind of draw a line
Yeah.
to make sure that we still bring the best of what we can bring.
Hmm. Not just AI, but also the human element.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think I don't know, like EdTech is it's always presented to teachers as a way of like solving problems or making your life easier. I
Hmm.
think this is just a kind of it's a way of selling something, right?
Hmm.
Um, it's presented as a way of making your life easier or as a way of updating something that hasn't changed for a long time.
Yeah.
Like tech companies will say, "Oh, look at this classroom; it looks the same as it did 100 years ago." So the answer is to like, give everybody an iPad or something like that, which is a horrendous view to take because classrooms obviously are not the same as they were 100 years ago. To
Mm.
to anybody who works in a classroom, you know that.
Yeah.
Um, so I would like to. I think it's for teachers really to push back and to
Hmm.
say to kind of make the case for teaching as something that is enjoyable and
Hmm.
valuable and worthwhile in its own right. It's not just a
Hmm.
chore or like
Hmm.
a job to be done. It's
Or a
has
market
meaning
to
in
be sold
itself.
to.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
Since we were speaking
and
about
to
ed
kind of
tech.
push back and say, yeah, like we don't need AI to do
Hmm.
this for us,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Yeah.
Um, because there's also one of the issues in the background is this global shortage of teachers, right?
Yeah.
There are millions and millions of teachers required,
Hmm.
um, and it's hard not to, I'm sure AI companies, tech companies are looking at that and rubbing their hands and thinking, look, how can we fill this gap
Mm.
instead of human
People.
beings? So
Yeah.
I do think as teachers we need to make a case for all the
Hmm.
value that we bring to what we do
Yeah.
and and to stand up for what we do.
Absolutely. I interviewed Chiara Brosano. Her episode's out right now as we're recording this in August, but I mean, our episode won't be out for a while. And she said something which really stuck with me since we, had our actual interview earlier in the year, which she said, teachers are the experts in their contexts. And as trainers, we need to remember that. And I think ed tech tool developers as well also need to remember that there isn't like not every context fits your tool and you just have to
Yeah.
accept that not every context your training style works with and you just have to accept that, right?
Yeah.
And it
I think,
stuck
do you know what
with
I
me.
think? I completely agree with that.
Hmm.
And I think also sometimes as teachers we're aware of what we don't know, right? If
Yeah.
you're reflective, then by
Hmm.
nature you're looking at what you can improve on and how
Hmm.
you can do better. But I think that mindset makes us afraid to speak out and afraid to push back and afraid to say,
Oh.
like, this does my classroom doesn't need this,
Yeah.
or I don't need yet another tool.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I completely agree. Teachers are experts in their context, and that means that I think maybe we need to get better at kind of saying that
Hmm.
and saying like I let me decide what comes into my classroom
Yeah.
in terms of technology
Yeah.
because I know what's needed. Like I
Yeah.
don't I don't need Apple or Microsoft or anyone else. Like
Hmm.
pushing things into my classroom.
Yeah. Now, is that something that you've had to do on your journey? Is that something that you're kind of proud of? Times you've held your ground, or times you've had to hold your ground?
That's interesting. I mean, I remember at the teaching centre in KL, at
Hmm.
the British Council Centre there, at some point, um, someone had come in and replaced all of the whiteboards there with
Smart
interactive
boards.
whiteboards,
Yeah.
smart boards.
Hmm.
And smart boards have their uses, right? They can
Hmm.
be very helpful. But one of the things I did was to put like a pen, just put a whiteboard and a marker pen back in every classroom
Hmm.
because that's a piece of technology that also has its uses.
Yeah.
And
And
there
it
are
can't
things
break.
it can't break, yeah. And you know what? We did have a power cut
Oh.
in my time there.
Mm.
And it was really interesting to see who was able to
Adapt.
adapt and carry on teaching,
Yeah.
and who kind of panicked because
Hmm.
they'd only they'd only ever taught with smart boards. And
Yeah.
that's not a criticism of those teachers,
Oh, of course not.
but it's just I just think it's interesting
Hmm.
to note that technology kind of fosters that kind of dependence.
Hmm.
So I think we should be careful of that.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm aware of that now, like kind of looking at lesson planning and AI lesson
Hmm.
planners.
Yeah.
What if that's the way that you plan your classes
Hmm.
day after day, does is there an aspect of that that kind of makes you less able to plan when you don't have it, when you
Yeah.
don't have it available to you?
Is this a crutch rather than a
Is it
support?
a crutch? And I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter.
Mm.
Um, or maybe it does, but we should have that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you sort of stand without this, I suppose?
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're doing a lot of your trainer work with teachers and with other trainers, when you're training trainers, um, is that something you have in mind?
The AI stuff?
Well, sort of localization, contextualization, like
Yes.
seeing them as
Yes.
experts in their areas.
Definitely. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's generally something um that I'll always start with,
Hmm.
kind of explicitly saying, um, these this needs to be a partnership. I
Hmm.
can share ideas with you. I can give you
Hmm.
I don't know, insights from research or whatever. Um, but you are the person that needs to take this and decide how to apply it in your
Hmm.
classroom. Um, so I guess I'm saying it for two reasons. Like one, so that they do apply it, so
Hmm.
that something happens following that
Yeah.
session, and they know that needs to take place.
Yeah.
But also because they need to mediate
Hmm.
whatever I give them or whatever we talk about
Hmm.
needs to be mediated to fit their context and their
Hmm.
classroom and their learners.
Yeah.
Um, and it's so we talk about it. We also make as much as possible. We'll make
Hmm.
those sessions dialogic, so that
Yeah.
teachers are speaking out,
Yeah.
sharing their own ways of doing things,
Hmm.
giving teachers opportunities to reflect, and
Yeah.
giving them time within the session to think about what might work for them or what wouldn't work for them, what
Hmm.
might they need to change.
Yeah.
Um, so this is all stuff that we talk about in the book.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's absolutely key, I think, and it's probably. Um, I mean, if I'm honest, it's not something I thought about an awful lot when I started
Hmm.
training teachers. And I think it's probably something that gets left out
Hmm.
often when, if people are inexperienced or if they haven't had any training as trainers, which is the
Yeah.
case for many trainers.
Yeah.
Um, so in from teacher to trainer, we talk about kind of three necessary ingredients
Hmm.
for impact in the classroom. So
Yeah.
one of them is a kind of practical aspect to your training.
Yeah.
So that participants are either able to kind of see how things might work. They're able to see teaching practice or experience teaching practice, or they're able to practice themselves. So if
Hmm.
you think of a CELTA, then you kind of get
Yeah,
both, right?
right.
You get that input from your tutor where you might be treated as a student, but you also have your teaching practice.
Hmm.
So there's that practical aspect. The other aspect is what we call a professional aspect.
Hmm.
So talking about making sure that you have access um, to teaching terminology or theories or frameworks or research insights. And then the third aspect was what we called the personal aspect, which is what kind of encompasses that that individual context kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's definitely part of what I aim to do.
Yeah. Is this going to be your niche in the future? Still training trainers?
I I have no idea. I all I know is that um, I find it fascinating.
Hmm.
I find language teaching and language and training language teachers fascinating.
Hmm.
So it's I've the difficulty for me is that that's a lot of things to be interested in. So I find it hard to kind of stick with one thing. Um, so I can't answer that,
Maybe that's why you
but
maintain your passion, because you do lots
yeah, I
of
mean you can
different
never get
things
bored.
and yeah, exactly. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, sort of starting to wind down. We've talked about a lot of things. You've expressed a lot of really, interesting ideas and thoughts, and a lot of things that I think our listeners can take away. Um, but for the people who listen and they're going to take away one thing, what is the sort of the main thing you'd like our listeners to take away from our conversation today?
That's a tough question.
Hmm.
I mean the AI. I saw thinking about context and thinking about the kinds of people who are going to be listening to this.
Yeah.
People who are engaged in their own development
Yeah.
and kind of keeping up with things. Um, Maybe that the whole AI issue is the one to focus on, and
Hmm.
I'd love to encourage people to be really critical about
Hmm.
what AI is bringing to their classrooms,
Hmm.
um, and also about what it's taking away
Hmm.
from their experience of teaching.
Yeah.
Um, and to make decisions then about when to use it and when not to use it.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, it's still really early,
Yeah.
in our journey with AI,
Yeah.
so it's hard to kind of draw any um, clear conclusions at
Hmm.
this point, I think. But yeah, maybe if I have to give one message, then it's to encourage your listeners
Hmm.
to be really critical about what they're doing, where they feel it adds
Hmm.
to their lessons and to
Hmm.
their learners' outcomes,
Hmm.
and also to reflect on yeah what's happening kind of under the hood. Are there ways in which it is
Yeah.
diminishing um, their experience of what they do, and to share that
Hmm.
so that we can learn from each other.
Yeah. People focused classrooms and collaborative
Yes,
conversations in
yes,
ELT.
absolutely, absolutely.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Matt, for coming on the show. What a great conversation. I always enjoy every conversation I have
Thank
on.
you for having me. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
I really appreciate you joining us. And to all of our listeners, if you want to get to know more about Matt, you can find him on LinkedIn. Where else can people find you on online spaces, Matt?
So I used to be on Twitter, but I
Hmm.
have left that particular space. So I am on
Hmm.
BlueSky. If you search on BlueSky, you'll find me there.
All right.
But
Great.
LinkedIn's probably the main place.
Gotcha. Thank you. Now, do you have a website or anything like that?
No, it's been in development for longer than I care to share.
That's all right. Don't worry. Just wanted to make sure if it was there, they could find it. Okay. So, to everyone listening, don't forget to stay in touch, well, with Matt, but also with TDSIG. Follow us on our social media platforms. You can find Matt by searching for his name. You can find us by searching for TDSIG or IATEFL TDSIG. Make sure you subscribe to the show, hit that subscribe button on whatever app you're using. And thank you again to Matt for taking time out of his day to come on and chat with us about so many great things.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, Helen. Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Matt.